Hello everyone, welcome to English 2. Today we're going to be looking at activities that we are doing right now, as well as our university life and things that we do on a regular basis. And mostly we'll be talking about ourselves. For today's lecture, I will be using the Fast Track 2 ebook. I assume most of you have your Fast Track 2 textbooks. If not, they are available at the bookstore. If you would like to use the screen today, that's fine, but this probably works better with your own textbook. So you can get that. I'll be referring to the textbook pages throughout the lesson. All right, let's begin with our starter activity on page 4. All right, so the starter activity on page 4, we're going to start right at the top. We're given two pictures with two individuals. Apparently they are talking to each other. The man on the left is saying, "What's your major?" The woman on the right is answering, "It's business management." Okay. So we're talking about a major. Of course, we're talking about somebody's specialized field of study. Okay. So you might be studying nursing, you might be electrical engineering, okay, or you might be business management. Okay. And we're using a phrase like what's. We're asking, what is your major? The woman is answering, my major is business management. Okay. Or simply, it is business management. Okay. Now that's a fairly common question in the first month of university when you're meeting new people. We like to learn a bit more about them, so you might find yourself answering or asking this question in English or in Korean. And there might be many other questions too. Okay. We're going to start off with a diagnostic test. If this is difficult, that's fine. But we are going to see how much you know in the initial stages of this lesson. Okay. What we're going to do to start off is we're going to do a matching exercise. Now in this activity you have questions on the left column, and in the right column you have answers. And you're going to match each question and each answer. The first one is done for you. So the first question, is your major difficult? Okay, so is your field of study difficult? And the answer, yes. Yes it is. Yes, my major is difficult, but my major is interesting. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording, and you can match the questions and answers on your own. Right? Right. And when you're finished, you can resume playing the recording, and we will review the answers. Let's take a look at the answers. Now, in this ebook, I'm going to review with the practice activity. Okay. Now, when you buy your textbook, on the inside of the front cover, you can find an access code in which you can get access to the ebook. This is a very handy way to study, to practice, to review. Now, spelling mistakes aside, number one, we saw from the example, the answer is D. Is your major difficult? Yes, but it's interesting. What about number two? How many courses are you taking? Okay. So for how many, we're looking for a number. Just do a quick scan, and I notice letter E says I'm taking 5 courses this semester. I think that's a match. How many courses? 5 courses. 3. What's your favorite course? Okay. All right. So again, the course that you like the best, okay? One that you enjoy the most. And the answer, right, even says I like it best. I like accounting best. Okay. So the answer is A. Number 4, we have a yes or no question. Do you have a class with Professor Davis? So I'm just scanning for yes or no answers. There appear to be 2 of them, and we're talking about a third person here. I think the answer for 4 is B. Do you have a class with Professor Davis? Yes, Professor Davis teaches my finance class. Okay. Okay, so that's 2 pieces of information. Number 4, are you from Stanford? Okay, so another yes or no question, asking, are you from Stanford? Did you previously attend Stanford or live in Stanford? I don't know if that's a city or a place or a university. The answer is F. So it's a yes or no question. We have a yes or no answer here. Are you from Stanford? No. I am from Seattle. Okay. And I assume the answer for number 6 is letter C. What do you do after school? I study in my dormitory. What a good student. Okay. All right. So what do you do at school? Okay. So you might attend classes or study during class. After school, okay, I return to my dormitory. I study in my dormitory. So that's what I do after school is finished. Okay. Now, how did I do? Perfect. So the results of the activity, I can see that I got 6 out of 6. Okay. Now, that's not written in stone. If you want to reset it and do it again immediately, or next week, or before your next quiz, that's fine. All right, so that's our opening activity. We're going to go down and do some listening. We're going to hear a dialogue between 2 people, oddly enough, 2 men. And we're going to listen to it a number of times. All right, let's listen to the dialogue. As you listen, just listen and see what they're generally talking about.
Dialogue Module 1. What electives are you taking? Listen to the dialogue, then read it with a partner.
What electives are you taking this semester?
I'm taking art history with Professor Kennan.
Is it interesting?
Yes, we're learning about different painting styles.
You're lucky. All of my courses are required. I spend every day in the science lab.
That's because you're majoring in chemistry. When's your next class today?
It starts at 2 o'clock.
Good. Let's stop by the coffee shop. Jenny is working now, and I want to ask her about our assignment.
All right. What did you pick up from that dialogue? Did you get the man's major? Did you hear what the other man's class was? And what was the name of the professor? Listen again and see if you can find out that information. Here is your second listening.
Dialogue Module 1. What electives are you taking? Listen to the dialogue, then read it with a partner.
electives are you taking this semester?
I'm taking art history with Professor Kennan.
Is it interesting?
Yes, we're learning about different painting styles.
You're lucky. All of my courses are required. I spend every day in the science lab.
That's because you're majoring in chemistry. When's your next class today?
It starts at 2 o'clock.
Good. Let's stop by the coffee shop. Jenny is working now, and I want to ask her about our assignment.
All right, so did you get that information? If not, you can check the answers. I'll just scroll down here. At the bottom of page 4, you can see the dialogue. Okay. Now I'm going to play it one more time. See if you can find the answers as we listen for a third time and as we read.
Dialogue Module 1. What electives are you taking? Listen to the dialogue, then read it with a partner.
What electives are you taking this semester?
I'm taking art history with Professor Kennan.
Is it interesting?
Yes, we're learning about different painting styles.
You're lucky. All of my courses are required. I spend every day in the science lab.
That's because you're majoring in chemistry. When's your next class today?
It starts at 2 o'clock.
Good. Let's stop by the coffee shop. Jenny is working now, and I want to ask her about our assignment.
All right, so listening there and reading, we can find out the answers to those questions. We know that one of the men is a chemistry major, and I guess that would be Matt, and Steve is studying art history. The name of his professor is Professor Kennan. Okay. So what they're basically talking about are their semester schedules, the classes, just the general life of studying at their university, and asking questions from their friends and getting an idea or a feel for what their schedules are like. Okay. Now, when they're talking about that, they're talking about their life right now. Okay. Now, maybe last semester they had a different schedule. They had different classes, different professors. Okay. So they're talking about this semester. Notice when they're talking about this semester, which is usually 3 or 4 months long, notice they're using the be verb and the ing form of each of these verbs. What electives are you taking? I'm taking art history. We're learning. Okay. You're majoring. Okay. They're talking about their general life right now. Sometime in the future, they will stop studying art history. They will stop learning about different painting styles. Okay. But these days, generally, they are doing these things. At the bottom here, they're using the same language, but to talk about a different period of time. Steve says, good, let's stop by the coffee shop. Jenny is working now. Okay. Now, they don't mean that she's having this job for a few months and then it stops. They're saying she's there at the coffee shop right now, right this moment. Okay. So again, these two pieces of language look the same, but they're talking about two different periods of time. So let's look at the grammar and see what were some specific examples and maybe look at some timelines. So at the top of page 5, you can see the names of the two grammar tenses that we're looking at. Probably most of you are familiar with these, and you've probably probably had lots of examples of the present simple. So present simple you have used before, and you see examples here. We sometimes use it with general facts, things that are always happening and that are always true. So you see here it says squares have 4 equal sides. So that's a definition of a square, so that must be true. Strawberries taste sweet. Okay. Maybe not every single one, but generally they do. Okay. The sky gets dark. Okay, if you live outside the polar regions, that's certainly true. Okay. Those are things that are always true. We also use the present simple tense when talking about events that happen at a regular basis. Okay? Not every single moment, but at regular times. So the example they give here is they have, I work at a restaurant. Okay? So that's something that you're not doing all the time. Maybe you do it every day or every other day. For some students, you might use it every weekend. Okay. This question, what does he do for fun? He plays video games. Okay. So he doesn't do it all the time. But when he has time, and maybe every day, he does something like this, or whenever he has fun. So I think we know the present simple. So today we're focusing on another present tense, but you'll see the structure is different. They use a be verb, is, are, examples of am, the ing ending. Probably a lot of you know that we use this tense, the be verb with the ing, the present progressive, when we're talking about right now. With the present simple, we can see the timeline shows it's all the time. Present progressive, it's just a very, very narrow period of time talking about right now. So examples here, it is raining. What are they doing now? They are studying. So that's things that are happening right now. We saw this in the dialogue when they talked about Jenny. Jenny is working now. Okay? And so it's much the same here when we're talking about ongoing events. Okay? With but again, we also use it for things that are generally happening, things that are happening now, and will eventually stop. Okay, so it's a wider definition of the word now. So Tom is living with his parents. Okay? Eventually, he will stop living with his parents. Okay? She is studying at the state university. Okay, that's what she's doing these days. Not right now, but generally now. Eventually, she will graduate. Okay? I am watching a new TV series. Okay? When the series finishes, I might watch reruns, but generally I will stop watching that. So it's just for a period of time that is generally now. All right, so looking at the speaking activity at the bottom of page 5, we will start by doing a speaking activity and using some of this language. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to talk about all the people in these pictures. Looking at the first one, see we're going to talk about Danielle, then a family called the Wilsons, a man named Alec, and then a couple named Marcus and April. Okay. We're going to talk about their weekend activities. And at the bottom, you can see the weekend activities are listed here in the various verbs, the actions that they do on the weekends. Okay. So here we're talking about a regular activity, okay, much like we saw in the grammar explanation, habitual events. Okay, so you work at a restaurant, you play video games. You know, weekends you do something. Maybe there's a regular activity. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to use these prompts at the top, and you can read them out here. What does Carrie do on weekends? Answer: she visits her grandparents. What do Ed and Wendy do on weekends? They play golf. Okay. So they give you these two examples. Notice when they talk about Carrie, they say, what does Carrie do on weekends? When they talk about Ed and Wendy, they don't say does. They say do. Okay. And you can see that in the answers too. What does Carrie do on weekends? She visits her grandparents. Okay. Whereas when Ed and Wendy, what do they do on weekends? They play golf. Okay. So notice the difference. Okay. And see if you can get these right. Now, if you're at home with a partner, one partner can be A, the other can be B. If you're studying this alone, you'll have to play both parts. Okay? But you'll be able to construct these sentences. So do each activity, and when you're finished, you can wrap it up with talking about yourself. Okay? And then we will review. Okay, so when you're finished, press play, and we will review. All right, so let's start with the first one. Danielle. You can see her in a picture. Okay, she seems to be by herself in looks like a craft room. All right. So for number one, what does Danielle do on weekends? She makes crafts. Okay. The second picture, okay, we can see the Wilsons here, entire family, and we can see where they are. So what do the Wilsons do on weekends? They go to church. Okay. So what do the Wilsons do on weekends? They go to church. All right, in the third picture, we have Alec. Okay. You can see him inside holding, looks like a mop or broom. So what does Alec do on weekends? He cleans his apartment. Okay, so that's a regular weekend activity for Alec. Okay. We're going to talk about Marcus and April. What do Marcus and April do on weekends? They take dance lessons. Like salsa dancing. Okay. All right. So from that we can see maybe the difference between does and do. Okay. So when we're talking about a third person, one third person, we usually use the auxiliary verb does. So if I say, what do you do? Okay, that's the question. But if I'm talking about one single other person, that's not you or me, use the auxiliary verb does. What does Carrie do? What does Danielle do? What does Alex do? She makes crafts. Okay. So I highlighted before, she makes crafts. Okay. And for Alec, he cleans his apartment. So you're given the base verbs here, but you have to change them for the third person. Marcus and April, they take dance lessons. What do the Wilsons do? on weekends? They go to church. Okay. So that concludes the first lecture. For our second lecture, we're going to go on to page 6, and we're going to do the speaking exercises there. In this first lecture, we looked at some language that we might use in everyday conversation. And we looked at the grammar that we use in such situations. And then we're able to practice some of it. Okay, so in the second lecture, we will practice some more. All right, so I'll see you in the second lecture.